Purpose. I tell people all the time that you were created on purpose for a purpose. You know, it might have surprised your parents that you showed up here, but you were no surprise to God. He already had your life in his heart. So take some time today, spend some time with your Father. Make sure you seek him for what your purpose is. And I promise you that the thing you're looking for in the universe is already inside of you. The gift of life and purpose, God has already put inside of you. And let me tell you, the best days that you live in your life will be those days where, number one, you're in God's will. Number two, living your purpose that he put you here for. I am so excited to have the continuation today of our Black Female Excellence series. And I've got 5 amazing women to introduce you to. But before we do that, I want to remind you of my special guest co-host for the month of July. Back with us again. Welcome back, Elias Reta. How are you doing?
I am, as always, blessed.
That's what I'm talking about. So how does it feel back to be back in the co-host chair for the second time?
It feels good. You know, I like being in the radio station.
You like that?
Makes you feel important. You know?
Yeah. Well, for those who don't know, once a year we do a show called Young Bosses. All right, because we have a men's show that we do once a month called Living Like a Boss, where it's me plus 5 male co-hosts talking about all the things that affect men. There was normally about 15 guys in this building on any given boss day. But once a year, we highlight young men ages 5 to 17 that are doing awesome things in the community, that are excelling in their different areas of gifting. And Elias was one of our young bosses this year. And just remind our audience again who you are, some of the things you do, and some of the things you're passionate about.
I'm very passionate about the arts, all arts, from filming to music production to dancing to acting to modeling, just all of it. I'm like in all the arts, and as of now, my goal is to kind of relate software to the arts.
Awesome. Tell me how old you are.
I am 16.
16, very accomplished, very well spoken. Wish y'all could have met his mama. I always tell my mama, you did a good job, mama. So again, as a part of his gift package for the young bosses, he was gifted the opportunity to come and guest co-host the show. At first it was gonna be like one day, and we were like, nah, let's do a whole month. And in fact, the last show of this month is going to be his baby. We have given him the opportunity to invite guests and book them to the show. And so he's going to be the lead that day. It's going to be a good show. You ready?
It will be a good show.
That's right. That's right. Well, today's show again is called Black Female Excellence. And we have live with us here Monique Knight, Beverly Green, Sharhonda Kirksey, Brandy Gates, and Mick Alexander. And I can't wait for you guys to meet these 5 amazing women. Let's talk about this first woman that we are here talking to on our Black Female Excellence show. Welcome, and this is a last minute addition within the last 48 hours to the show. Monique Knight, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's so good to have you here.
Yes, this is my first radio interview.
Well, that's what's up. We like first at Instinct Radio, don't we, Jack Trey? People can always, wherever they go. I was at Instinct Radio when I did my very first interview. Well, let's talk about how we met. I met you Saturday.
Yes.
At Evan Jefferson's Black Billionaires Club book launch. Yes. Did I say it right? Okay, yes. Make sure I got it all together. And you immediately told me about your business, which you came branded today, and I love that. That's the name of her business on her T-shirt. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, well, long story or short story?
Short story.
Okay, so I am the owner of a boys-only clothing and accessory boutique. We offer trendy and upscale looks for boys. We want to encourage young men to care about how they look and the image that they portray to the rest of the world, especially our young Black boys. So we launched this business to give boys an avenue to dress well and to learn to represent themselves in a way that we all can be proud of.
Who did you think about just now when she started telling you that? Did you think about somebody specific that's always talking about dressing well? Who did you think about?
Of course, Ernest Moore.
Ernest Moore. We got to connect you with Ernest Moore.
Okay.
You don't know Ernest Moore? No. He has an organization called Future Gents. And
Okay.
Tell her about Future Gents, and she'll understand why you got to meet Ernest Moore.
Yeah, so Future Gents basically is kind of doing exactly what you're saying. And
Okay.
not only is he putting, you know, young boys in really like nice upscale suits and stuff and teaching them about etiquette, but he's really trying to teach them how to become young men, and that is what he's doing.
That's a connect you gotta have.
Like 2 to 92. I mean, like kids that are 4 years old are walking.
Okay.
You know, everybody, all walks of life, different races, just everybody. It's all men.
Okay.
And I'm surprised he hasn't heard about you, because that's exactly what he does.
We just opened in October, so there's a lot of people who haven't heard of us yet, but
we're gonna make that connect today.
We're gonna become a household name.
And in fact, Ernest watches my show a lot, so we're gonna make that connect today. So why was this something that you wanted to pursue?
Well, I kind of took the long route to get here. I started off my career in marketing, and then I left that and became a mental health counselor and opened a group home for boys. And I worked with boys for 10 years. And honestly, the experience was emotionally very draining for me.
Is that so not Ernest Moore, right there, the smart and dapper? I love that. Go ahead.
But so after I gave birth to my first son, the Trayvon Martin incident happened, and I really wanted to do something that was fun and I could have some joy around, but at the same time was still giving back to the boys that I really care about, and I could show an image of them that the rest of the world would have a little bit more respect for, that would give them pause before they pull a gun on my child. You know, look at this beautiful black boy. You know, let's embrace them in a way that the world hasn't really seen in a long time. So,
I love that.
So we really want to, you know, show boys in a way that, okay, that's not something to be terrified of. That's something to really just be in love with. This is our passion. This is, you know, when I look at a little black boy, I don't care how dirty his face is. I'm just in love. You know, I'm filled with just a godly presence, you know, when I look at a little black boy, and I want the rest of the world to see that too. And we're in a time where we can kind of create our own definitions in a way that we really haven't been able to. You know, in the past, we've kind of been bogged down in, you know, other people's definitions of us, and we really have an opportunity now to create our own. And for me, that's being able to balance being an entrepreneur with being a mom, with being a wife, and being able to say, I want all of that, and I don't have to sacrifice any of it to, you know, fulfill somebody else's demands of me. And that's what being excellent is right now for me.
I love that. I love that answer. Did you have anything? You want to add anything?
Yeah, so if young boys want to, you know, potentially model for your clothing line, but they don't know where to go, where to start, can you like help them out? Like,
absolutely. Yeah, we do a model call every 3 months. Every season we do a photo shoot, and all of our models are amateurs that are customers, that are friends of the family who want to participate in a real photo shoot. So the only thing that you need to do is subscribe to our email list and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We're www.rivetboys.com, or on everywhere else, all social media, we're at Rivet Boys. You follow us there, we'll send out a model call. We'll usually have kind of a quantity cutoff, but you can submit your application to be included in the photo shoot, and we select 10, 15, 20 kids, depending on what the parameters of our photo shoot are going to be, and then we send out the instructions for that shoot.
Well, before we go, normally on our first break, we mention something that we're thankful for, and we still have to do that in spite of the fact that we changed the format of the show. And I'll go first today, Elias. I said that today I'm thankful for friends who tell me the truth about me, and the opportunities that continue to find me. Two things. Number one, we need folk who love you enough to say, girl, that wasn't even right. You shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have done that. And I had one of those instances this weekend. I posted something on Facebook that a friend of mine said, you ain't had no business posting it. I was in my, you know, we get in our feelings. And I said, I'm just going to tell the world what I feel. And I put it on Facebook, and it wasn't very long before a friend of mine inboxed me and said, that wasn't cool. And I said, you right, and I love you. And I deleted it. So I'm thankful for people who love us enough to see us us making a fool of ourselves and to pull us back in. All right, Elias, what are you thankful for today?
I'm honestly just thankful to be back on this radio station. You know, it's just a blessing. You blessed me so much in the past month, and it's just a blessing to be here again.
Well, I'm enjoying you. I really am. Again, it goes back to what Monique said about giving the world a different image of who our young men are. I mean, you meet him and you assume he's older than he is because he carries himself so well, but this is who our boys are. Right. It's not who the media says that. This is who they really are. And so I'm thankful that you were willing to come back so we can continue to remind them how beautiful our young people are. All right, you guys, you're back live on the air with Regina Sunshine and Elias Reta here on the Black Female Excellence Show here on the Regina Sunshine Show. We have our second amazing woman here with us, and I am going to read a little bit about her before I introduce her. Her name is Beverly Green. She says, I'm a spoken word poet and new author of 2 Christian children's books. I learned over the years to encourage myself in the Lord. My passion is not just to keep myself motivated, but to inspire others in their quest for life. Discouragement does not discriminate. It has at some point touched all of our hearts. And 1 John 3:8 says, for this purpose, the Son of God was manifested that he might destroy the works of the devil. As I minister through poetic prose, educating, encouraging, and inspiring, discouragement is being destroyed. Feelings of despair are being abandoned and hearts are being stirred up to press forward in life. Welcome to the show, Beverly Green. That's what's up. Yes. That's what's up. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
I like to mention how I met someone, and I think I met you on Facebook first.
Yes, you did.
And then officially through somebody we love here at Instinct Radio, Lanita Mitchell Blackwell.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
It's so good to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, let's go ahead and get into it. You know, I love everything you said there, because what I hear is a healer of broken hearts.
Amen.
A lifter of bowed heads.
Amen.
Talk to us about why that's so important to you.
Well, it's important to me because when I was younger, I grew up depressed and I faced so much in my emotions. And sometimes when we get to that point of depression, we feel like we have nowhere to go, no one to turn to. And my goal is to be able to reach those people who feel like they have nowhere to go and no one to turn to, because I want to let them know how important they are.
Yes.
And how God loves them. And so I have a message to give, not just to children, but to men, women, old, young. I have a message for the world, and it's that God loves them and they should never give up in life. As a child, I faced a lot of issues. I wasn't close with my dad the way I wanted to be. And so it was through the pain of what I endured that I had to learn to encourage myself in the Lord. When you have no one else, it's just you and God.
Mm-hmm.
And there are days that not just as a child that we go through those challenging times, but even as adults. And so I would write to myself. What I do, writing to myself, I wanted to encourage myself. And one day I realized that this could help someone else. And when the light came on, I wanted the opportunity to be able to bless someone else and pull them out of whatever despairing situation they were in.
So why did you decide to write children's books?
Well, let me tell you, it was an accident. Around the holidays, a few years ago, I was thinking about the reason Jesus came, and the commercialized Christmas always dealt with Santa Claus, Saint Nicholas, and I wanted a poem out there to just speak about the birth, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And I wrote the poem just to write the poem. A few years later, I reread the poem and I said, this is a book. I just need to get it illustrated. Yes. And as well as the same with the fall of man. I was doing some study on Adam and Eve, and I reread it a few years ago. I said, this could be a book. Children need to hear this, and they will hear and understand. Because sometimes when children do not listen in church, when you get ready to read a story, they're all ears. And so it's all about reaching our youth.
Absolutely. So how do you know Lanita?
I met Lanita. I needed an attorney. and she drew up some papers for me. And while she was drawing up papers, the weirdest thing, out of nowhere, I said, Lynetta, I write poetry. I said, would you like to hear something? And she said, sure, sure. And so I recited one of my poems to her. And it was like, wow, we had a connection ever since. And she said, I own my own publishing company, and we need to get that published. The world need to hear what you have to say. And I said, I'm ready. I procrastinated too long. It was time. So I thank God for the divine connection of meeting Lynetta.
We got the same story because I wrote this book in 2015. She's my publisher.
Okay.
And she's also my personal coach.
Okay.
And so when I met her, she was like, what you waiting on? So she's definitely one of those people that pushes you forward.
Yes.
I tell people whatever I have in my mind that I want to do is like this. And then I meet with her and it's like this.
Yes.
Right? It's
Yes.
big. How important has it been to have people like her in your life who've encouraged you? Because, we talk about encouraging yourself, which is very important. But then you have people who step into your life like Anita Mitchell Blackwell, who add something to it. How important has that been in your life?
It's been very important. I mentioned that I grew up with low self-esteem and depression. And it wasn't until I met Apostle Ann Atwaters of Seed Faith Christian Ministries. She believed in me, and she saw a gift. She saw something I did not even see. And it was through meeting her and learning about the Lord that the gift of writing poetry was stirred up in me, and to be able to have that opportunity to minister to others. So having someone that push you, it is very important. It's vital. It's almost like oxygen. We need that. There are times when we don't see our own capabilities. And so having that person that come and just push and catapult us into our destiny is what we need.
Awesome. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, you have 2 books, right?
I have 2 books.
Can you kind of give a brief synopsis of one of the books so you kind of know?
One of the books that is called The Fall of Man. It talks about Adam and Eve and them in the garden. So children, a lot of time in Sunday schools, they learn about Adam and Eve. But what about the people that don't go to church? We need some way to be able to reach them who knows nothing about Adam and Eve, the story, the temptation that was faced in the Garden of Eden. And so being able to write about this and being able to explain to the children that there come days that you are faced with decisions of right and wrong. Mom and dad is not going to be there. And so it's important for them to develop those skill sets, even within themselves, that says, everything I do has a consequence. And so this is one of those books that teaches that to everything we do, good or bad, there is a consequence.
Absolutely.
Amen.
I love that. Ministry, because I heard you mention ministry. I can sense that. I can discern that. Talk to us about how ministry has played a role in everything that you do.
Well, it's played a vital role, because the reason I do what I do is because of ministry. I believe that through the power of the Holy Spirit, he guides and leads us into all truth. And as vessels here on earth, even you, Regina, you're a vessel. You're a vessel to the youth and to people that have started businesses. And so what I do through the power of the Holy Spirit is to minister, because I'm reaching hearts. I'm reaching those that are hurting. I'm reaching those who are just underwhelmed in life and need to be brought up. Well, I can't change you, but God can. And through living and moving and working and ministering through the power of God, change can happen. And that's what it's all about.
Well, you done mentioned a couple times here being a spoken word artist, that you met Lanita and you gave. I know this is like on the spot, but that's what happens when you live on the air. Do you have something that you would like to share with us? A piece you'd like to do?
I do. It's a poem that I wrote a few months ago.
Okay.
And it's called "Can You See What I See?" And it is written, let me say, in first person by God.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see you the way I do? way before there was a you. Can you see her? Can you see him? Or is the lamp of your heart so very dim? Before you were born, I knew you. Before your mother gave birth, I groomed you. Before you said your first words, we talked. Before you took your first steps, we walked. Can you see you the way I do? With the talents and the gifts I've placed in you. A unique individual meant to achieve, not to be a follower, but chosen to lead. Before you messed up, I cleaned you. Before you chose to do wrong, I redeemed you. Before you gave up, I renewed you. Before you ran away, I pursued you. Can you see you the way I do? Or are you looking at the flaws that reside in you? Are you focused on the mistakes that you've made in your life? Do you hang on to anger and cling on to strife? Before you were influenced, I led you. Before you knew hunger, I fed you. Before you were discouraged, I inspired you. Before you were suicidal, I revived you. Do you want to know who I see? When I cast my eyes on thee, when I look upon your frame, when I call out your name, I see a man redeemed who is more than what he seems, who can change the hands of time and help cultivate young minds. I see a man covered by the blood of the Lamb of God and who is loved, who accepted me one day. Yet you seem to have lost your way. Don't see you as you are, beaten by life and scarred, abandoned and alone. No, raise up, child, and be strong. Learn to see beyond what's here. Cast aside your doubts and fears. Be encouraged, steadfast, and strong. I will never lead you wrong. Grab a hold of your vision and go forth and begin to live it. You are blessed and you are cherished, but without a vision, you will perish. Can you see you the way I do? Or are your eyes still closed?
That was wonderful. I felt the anointing. I felt the anointing. I almost threw this mic down. I felt it. I thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
You're right. I recognize there's a connection that you and I have. I'm also one of those people that I know God has sent to lift the heads of the brokenhearted. I can walk into a room. When I do a women's event, I can walk into a room. It's like somebody puts a spotlight over their head. She needs a hug. She needs a hug. She needs encouragement. And I know automatically. So we're going to have to keep in touch.
Yes, we
and
will.
Have you come and speak to my women when we
Okay.
do our women's brunches. Sound good?
That sounds great.
What does Black female excellence mean to you?
Black female excellence to me means, Black folks, we have gone through struggles in life, but it is way beyond time for us to not lean on excuses of why we can't do this or we can't do that. Black female excellence to me is females choosing to walk in integrity, choosing to walk in their purpose, and not only walking in your purpose, but caring enough to bring somebody else along, even in theirs.
I love it. I do. Yes, yes. All right, you guys. You are back live on the air with Regina Sunshine and Elias Reta here on the Black Female Excellence series on the Regina Sunshine Show. We have our third amazing woman to introduce you to. And I'm going to read a little bit about her. Her name is Sharhonda Kirksey. She's a native of Greenville, South Carolina, which is where you just drove from, right? Yes. That's what's up. Yes. She is a mother of 4 talented children and a wife of an amazing, loving husband. I love that edification. As a graduate of Webster University with a bachelor's of arts in psychology, Sharhonda worked as a residential counselor. Look at the common threads running through the room. Divine appointments. Residential counselor for an after-school program serving at-risk youth. A big believer of empowerment of the youth, Sharhonda continues that work through her nonprofit organization, Impact One. Yes. A fierce survivor of childhood sexual abuse, Sharhonda underwent counseling to overcome the negative effects of abuse. She implemented the tools she gained to create a life she could be fulfilled in. She lives by the scripture. Now faith is the substance. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. Faith is that which stands under hope. Knowing this truth, she seeks to ignite the fire of hope in the lives of those she comes into contact with every day. Welcome to the show. Tell us about your nonprofit, Impact One.
That is my baby, birthed out of just my childhood struggles. And then growing up and seeing other children with the lack of parental guidance and their need in the African American community, especially to be empowered as Black people. Mm-hmm. So I'm very big on empowering people that look like me. To let them know their stance in the world, their power in the world, give them that power back that they may have felt they lost. So I'm big on that with the youth. I think it starts in the youth because you're starting to try to find yourself and you need to know I'm good enough, I am enough. And you just drill that in them and teach them other heroes that look like them.
Well, it's obvious from how you started that you do have a passion for young people.
Yes, I love them.
How did you start out in that field?
Initially, I went to college to be an accountant because felt like I was good at math, and then I got bored by it. So I ventured over to psychology. It's just something God spoke to me and said, psychology is where you should be. A lot of church people would say, no, I don't know about psychology back then, but that's where I felt led. And from that point, I started going into the group homes and the residential treatment facilities and just seeing the children with or without a parent, their behavior, the things they've been through. And I thought I could have been one of these kids. Mm-hmm. With the things I've endured, I could have been in a residential treatment facility. So I think catching them before the incident happens or in the midst of it and having someone talk to them through that helps. And I could have been one of those kids. So it just kind of led me to work with them because that could have been me.
Well, when you mentioned the church and psychology,
Mm-hmm.
I said one of the challenges we've had in our community is not addressing mental health issues.
Oh, yes, that's big.
Girl, go pray about it. It's going to be all right. But it's like anything else. You need steps and tools to assist you as God is walking you on that journey.
Exactly.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
You've overcome so much.
Yes.
Talk to us about being an overcomer.
Oh, wow. Being an overcomer, it starts with recognizing you have a problem, accepting that you have a problem. Acceptance was a big thing for me. I didn't want to accept, okay, this is what happened. This is how I am. In my 20s, early 20s, that's when I started to speak more about what happened to me because the majority of my family didn't know. Mm-hmm. My grandfather had passed away, and my grandmother, who was still living, was, very tight knit, closed mouth. We don't say nothing. So just growing up and then realizing, okay, I do have a voice. I can say something. I'm grown now. I have the control. That's when I started to overcome. That's when I realized I can say something about this. I can speak out about it. That was the healing for me, just opening up and being validated, knowing that it was a real experience. Because when you go through it and it's a secret, mm-hmm. and I'm talking about sexual abuse, when you go through it and it's a secret, it can play a trick on your own mind because you're thinking, well, did this happen to me? If nobody else will validate my experience, mm-hmm. and I think it happened, but nobody else will validate it, did it really happen? You question everything. And I questioned a lot about myself. And I didn't come into confidence until, my later 20s, early 30s. That's when I started feeling like, okay, I've got this. So yeah, that's my overcoming.
Well, we have to have the conversation about sexual abuse.
Definitely.
We talk about mental health. The next thing is nobody wants to talk about what happened in the family. It's a family thing. You keep people, but no, because what happens then is the victim begins to internalize everything. All of that, and it becomes their fault. Mm-hmm. I was at an event in Raleigh, North Carolina, and there was a young woman there who shared for the first time, and I don't know how she got it out. She cried every moment. It's the first time she ever publicly talked about the fact that her father had molested her and all of her siblings.
Wow.
And it took her her the longest time to say it, but since then she said it over and
Yeah.
over and over again. And I see her now, and I was like, baby, I remember that day,
Yes.
you know, and it was hard, but you got through it. And now she shares that,
Mhm.
and create this space for women or men or whoever
Right.
to open up and say, this is what happened.
This is what happened.
And I'm okay. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to make it, but
Yes.
you need to know this is what's happening so that
Exactly.
we're aware as well. And you authored a book. Tell us about your book.
Yeah, so you mentioned Brandy Hunt earlier.
Yes.
So she's doing a collaboration with about 14 other authors,
Mhm.
and I'm featured in there. The title of my book is The Gifted, and it takes us on a journey through, the main character is based on me. Her name is Roxy, and we take you on a journey through her time of starting to deal with anxiety and depression a lot. She's starting to act out at family events because she doesn't know how to handle everything, but her family wants her to keep it a secret. So we go through that journey of her, okay, I can't take this anymore. It's pressure on me. It's killing me. If I don't say something, I might die. And that was my real experience. If I don't open my mouth, I might die. So instead of me dying and leaving my children alone and my husband alone, I decided I'm opening my mouth for my health.
Yes.
Everybody else might not like it, but that's what I'm going to do for me.
Yes.
And so Roxy, she's going to, by the end of the book, she's going to open her mouth and she's going to realize the true meaning of the family's last name as a gifted person. She's going to realize her gift, because in the beginning of my life, I remember my innocence a little bit. And then I remember years of it being taken away. And then as I got grown, I'm like, something's missing. I don't understand. I don't know who I am. But it's like the Spirit of God took me back to when I was that innocent child. And I was like, that's who I am. So you deal with that basis of who you are from the beginning. Not your life isn't defined by your sexual abuse or your tragedy. Your life is who God, what God breathed into your spirit from your time of your conception. And that's who I am. And that's Roxy goes on that to realize her gift and the gift of God that's in her.
I saw something the other day. You know, it was just talking about like anger and, you know, things people have gone through. And, you know, they said that the fact isn't that I don't have problems. It's just that my problems don't have me.
Right.
And a lot of times, one of the key components with what I've heard with like sexual abuse and things that are internalized for many years is that the one way to kind of get over it is forgiveness. And that's like the hardest part about it. And I just wanted to know if you found yourself like really having to forgive the person who did this to you.
That's a great question.
My abuser is a family member, and I see this family member at cookouts and any kind of family function that we have. In the beginning, and I deal with this in the book, I was a pretender. I pretended with the rest of the family. I acted like this didn't happen just so everybody could get along, just so everything could be okay. By the time I started dealing with the depression and anxiety really bad, that's when the anger surfaced really bad. I hated people and it. And me and God had some choice words. Because I didn't understand when the church, and I left the church for a while. I felt like they weren't, and I feel like they still aren't equipped to deal with many men and women who deal with sexual abuse. But they kept coming at me about forgiveness. You need to forgive. You need to forgive. And I'm saying, when a tragic life occurrence happens to you, and your heart is not only broken, but your spirit is, and your mind is torn down, and you don't even know who you are. Am I to focus on forgiving him first, or should God be dealing with my heart and me and my forgiveness of myself? Because I feel ashamed. I feel like even though it wasn't my fault, something took place that maybe I could have did something different about. So first, I need to forgive me, and I need to know myself. Once I've gotten that part under control, I need to talk to God about, okay, what am I to do with this person? Because I'm angry. And what this person did to me wasn't fair. It wasn't right. It wasn't just. And how do I forgive somebody who steals my innocence? My life coach, shout out to Precious Bivings. I went into her office one day and she said, so how many years ago did this happen? And I was like, oh, I guess it's been about over 20 plus years now. And she was like, so you've been carrying his bleep for over 20 years. His, not yours. His shame that he put on you, his aggression, his attitude, everything from him. It's his responsibility, not yours. So when I said that, I was like, okay, so I was the victim then. Everything that he brought to me wasn't because I wanted it, wasn't because I needed it or whatever the case may be. It was because of him. I had nothing to do with that. And so when I seen that part, I said, okay, it helped me to separate my life from his. And it helped me to start to look at him as a sick human being instead of a monster. A lot of things take place in the mind. So I would say as forgiveness for me, it's an ongoing process.
Yes.
It's not something that I'm going to do like that. I don't advocate for people to tell you it's going to happen like that. Because if somebody's violated you, and especially if it's over and over again, that's a trauma. Even if you're in forgiveness, your mind doesn't release it. Your brain, somebody can touch you on your shoulder and your brain is like, oh God, I don't like that feeling. It comes back just like that. So it's a constant process of training yourself how to be.
Black female excellence.
Oh, wow.
What does that mean to you?
Oh, that means standing in your greatness, standing in who you are, owning it, affirming it every day, just being you without apology. That's Black female excellence to me.
I love that. I do. All right, you guys, you're back live on the air with Regina Sunshine and Elias Reta here on the Black Female Excellence edition of the Regina Sunshine Show. And we have our, what is this, fourth amazing woman to introduce you to, Brandy Gates. And I'll read a little bit about her. Brandy Gates is from Oakland, California. She's the middle child of 7 children. She earned her bachelor's degree in business administration from, Louisiana Tech University, and master's in business administration from Missouri Baptist University. She has served as a law enforcement officer for 8 years, 6 years with St. Louis City Metropolitan Police Department, and presently with the VA Hospital Police Services Department. She published her first book in September 2016 titled Through My Eyes. All right, so let's get into it. Southern Butterfly Entertainment. Tell us about that.
So the name of my company is a reflective of me, my personality. The Southern part is because I developed an accent when I went to college in Louisiana in the South. Being from California, I never had an accent. And then after 1 year, I came back and everybody's, oh, you hella country. You sound so country. Where'd you get that accent from? We never recall you sounding like that. So I tried to, part ways with it, but it was so habit it's not designed to leave. So I still have a Louisiana accent. When I'm around my Louisiana family or in New Orleans, it comes out very, very thickly. So that's where the Southern comes from. And the process of growing and developing and blossoming into a butterfly is where that came from, because I've always been someone that I feel self-growth should be a never-ending thing. You should never stop being a student of life. And in order to be the best version of you, you have to continue to grow and put the right things into your spirit, into your mind, into your body health-wise, so that you can grow. And so that's where Southern Butterfly Entertainment came from. Entertainment as a speaker, as a poet, that's the entertainment piece. I don't do singing or, anything like that. But hey, it sounded nice, so the entertainment is where that part came from.
Police officer. You carry a weapon on a daily basis.
Yes.
Talk to us about being a Black female police officer.
Oh, that's an interesting question. So being a Black police officer, female in a male-dominated profession, you really have to be aggressive and assertive, because people will walk over you if you don't. So a lot of times, I'm told I come across very aggressively, but that's a part of why, because what I've learned about men, and when you're in the minority with men, you just have to, be assertive and stand your ground. And part of that means you kind of have to take charge and, you know, push people to let them know, like, if they push you, you push back, not in a physical sense, but, with your words. So with that being said, I think that my experiences, the things that I've gone through in my life and seeing what I saw, with police brutality, being from Oakland. The Oakland Police Department was one of the racist police departments in the 70s and prior to that, but I was a 70s baby. So seeing that stuff, and in the 80s when crack kind of first started coming out on the scene, you were able to just see a lot, and you got tired of not seeing, justice being served against your people. So, for me, my defining moment was the Rodney King verdict and wanting to join law enforcement, because I just couldn't understand how an innocent man who had no fight, didn't fight back, no weapon, no resistance, could just get beat so bad. And then there was no justice in serving a sentence to the 4 officers that did it. So that was how I, desired to strive to become law enforcement. And I remember when I told my dad, he was like, I didn't send you to college to go be a cop. So you need to pick a profession that makes more money. So he wasn't too happy about that. But at the end of the day, my ability to communicate, connect with people, and meet them where they are is my gift. So after going through sexual trauma, as well as a 8-year-old child, you learn a lot of different things. I don't think necessarily for me that I needed to forgive the person who violated me, because I don't think at that age I really understood just how bad of what happened to me it really was. So I didn't really have an anger issue with him. I think my anger was more so with my birth dad, because he wasn't there to protect me. And so that anger for him, was very real, because it's like, how could you allow this to happen to me? And you're supposed to be the person that protect me. So it took, a long time to forgive my biological dad for everything and just being, a deadbeat and not being around. And my moment of truth came when I was on deployment, when I was away from everybody, away from everything, no family, no familiar surroundings. And then, all of a sudden I just broke down, and I would journal every day about what I was experiencing, what I was seeing. And then I wrote like the letter of forgiveness to my dad. And that was how I dealt with it. And then my book came out of that. From my deployment, I wrote about going through explosion, which was a VBIED, a vehicle-borne incendiary explosion device. So basically, they turned their car into a bomb, and then they just run their car into our convoy, and it blew up, and we lost 7 guys on our deployment. And so the explosion happened about 55 feet from where I was standing, and the shame of the stigma, the label, people don't want to be, I guess, labeled, PTSD, traumatic brain injury, because you want to fit in, or you want to look normal, or you want to appear normal. So you don't, especially males, they don't want to talk about it. So part of me writing my book was to reach military veterans, to reach children, and any adult or female that has been through any type of traumatic experience, whether it's sexual trauma, whether it's child molestation. I think we all have a story to tell. And like the other young lady said, that the shame is what makes us stay silent. And the first time I talked about it is when I wrote my book, and I broke down and cried very, very bad, because it was like reliving that moment that happened so many years ago, and reliving that moment, standing in your truth and owning your truth, to say that, I'm not a victim, but I'm victorious, because I'm still here. I'm still standing. And God saw fit for me not to die in that explosion. God saw fit for me to still be here after this traumatic experience. So therefore, I have lives to help and lives to save. So I get to do that professionally in law enforcement. I get to do that being in the military, serving my country. I get to do that now in my own way, and having my platform as a motivational speaker, and saying that you don't have to remain a victim to what you've gone through, but you can turn your pain into your purpose and become victorious, to see that through it all, you are still enough. Through it all, you're still an amazing woman. And through it all, that you still have stories to share, because God can't get the glory if you don't share your story, and you won't have a testimony if you never go through a test.
What type of impact does that have on the communities that you're able to serve?
It makes a huge impact, because I can say, even though I'm in law enforcement, when I get pulled over by the police when I'm off duty, I'm not in uniform. I'm just a regular civilian. Some people make the badge and the badge make people. So it's definitely when you see somebody that looks like you show up on a call to your house, it gives you some sense of, relief because you have, certain things in common. You come from the same background. You don't know. But when I sit and listen to you explain to me why I am at your house, why you called us, and what is the problem, and then I can sit down and level with you and meet you where you are and say, you know what, you have every right to be angry, or you have every right to feel the way you feel. However, this is not the right way you want to go about handling this situation. The key to having that balance is knowing what your triggers are. And a lot of people don't know what their triggers are. So therefore, when you don't know your triggers, you can't set boundaries. Mm-hmm. If you have boundaries, then you don't allow people to penetrate those boundaries. And when you start to see that happening, then you will leave and get yourself out of that situation. Or you will ask your partner, say, hey, you know what? This is too close, to home for me. I can't take the lead on this call, and I'll back you. Everybody chooses how they want to police. Officer discretion is given to every officer how they want to, handle a call. If they want to write a ticket, not write a ticket, give a warning, try to understand why this person is in this situation. And if I do choose to write a ticket, is it really going to help this person, that's already in a bad predicament or situation? And is this going to be the situation that pushes them over to maybe to say, I want to take my life because I have nothing to live for? So anxiety, depression, and suicide is very real. It's very high amongst law enforcement. It's very high among military, and the divorce rate is very high. So I work in a unique capacity, understanding all of that, having the message that I have, and being able to talk to people and get them to see it from a different perspective, and to encourage them to, hey, there's another way that you can approach this situation. This may be the only way but it's not the only way that you can go.
You are the kind of officer we all need in our neighborhoods. For real, for real.
So to maybe a black kid that's pulled over by a police officer and they want to make sure that they're protecting their life, what advice do you have to them as far as what to do?
Okay, I have 3 tips. First tip, consider joining the profession. That's what makes people like you who've gone through that an excellent detective, an excellent officer, and to be able to resolve crime in your community and reduce crime in your community, because nothing is better than the best teacher of your experience. Number 2, document. Make sure when you're stopped, be respectful, cordial, get the officer's name, get the officer's badge number, and you file a complaint each and every time. You document it in your notebook each and every time, the street, the location, the time of day, and you write and you send that same letter to the Internal Affairs Department. You send that letter to the Chief of Police. You send that to your mayor. You send that to all of your local representatives, because if enough of you all keep doing that, something has got to happen. Number 3, survive the incident. I don't care how bad they mistreat you, and I'm not condoning it, but you want to live to get home so that you can make that complaint. You want to live to get home to document that incident, so you will never win that fight in the moment. Even if the officer is wrong, do not contest it, and do as much as you can to survive that incident to get home. That is the 3 best tips that I can give you. And so many people don't want to join the profession, but that is why you should, because change starts with you. If you don't want to be a part of that change, then how do we get to the resolution?
Exactly. I feel the exact same way. Like, I love it when I see black people, like, maybe not even necessarily law enforcement, but just getting into the judicial system.
Yes.
That
and
is
lawyers,
inspiring.
become lawyers.
Yeah.
The people that can, that's how you fight. You have to have a seat at the table and be a decision maker in order to truly fight. And that's how you fight.
All right, you guys, you're back live on the air with Regina Sunshine and Elias Reta here on the Black Female Excellence edition of the Regina Sunshine Show. And we have our number 5 amazing woman here with us today, Miss Mick Alexander. And just a little bit about her. Mick Alexander is a highly successful entrepreneur, trainer, coach, and author of Image is Power. She is known for her magnetic and unique style, both as a leader and public speaker. In 2014, she became one of the first United States citizens to be certified in emotional intelligence by the International Society for Emotional Intelligence. She is the president and founder of Image Wealth and the creator of the Image Wellness System for Success and the Fan Your Flame 20-40 60-Day Challenge. She has received numerous business awards, such as the Chamber's Entrepreneur of the Year Award, the Business Journal's Women in Business Award, and the largest minority business award, to name a few. She is a member of the International Society for Emotional Intelligence and a founding member of the Foundation for the Carolinas Women's Impact Fund. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It's good to have you here. You're another out-of-towner today. We got a couple of out-of-towners today. Tell everybody where you came in from.
I came from Charlotte, North Carolina.
That's right. It's so good to have you here. And I met you at the Upstate South Carolina Chamber of Commerce's Women's Leadership Council. We were conference. We were both presenters.
That's right.
For that, and instant connection. And we've been trying to get you here ever since I met you that day. So let's go ahead and get into it. Emotional intelligence.
Yes.
It seems like a new term, but it's so needed for all of us. So talk to us about what it means when you talk about emotional intelligence.
Well, emotional intelligence is basically understanding and accurately labeling your own emotions. So for a lot of us, we feel things, but we inaccurately label what it is. So perhaps we are humiliated, but we respond to it as if we're angry. So the first step is understanding our own emotions. And then secondly, having tools to manage those through those lower level times when things are not going the way we think that or we envision them. And then thirdly is once we understand ourselves, being able to properly pick up and identify emotions for others, and then using that information to build harmonious relationships. So the short definition of emotional intelligence is being able to identify and use your emotions properly during the day-to-day life of one's life. In our community, as I teach at the college level, I am seeing mostly white faces in my classrooms. I'm not seeing a lot of African Americans. We need this information. We need more than just the understanding of emotional intelligence, but actually a system, which is why I developed the system. So it's one thing to help people understand what it is. It's another thing to give them tools that they can practice for a lifetime, not just at this moment of crises. So one thing I say to a lot of my students, and all my clients are called students, it's best to begin practicing something prior to the crises. But what happens is I get the call once the bottom fell out. And that's okay, but now you're dealing with the emotions of that incident and you're trying to learn something new. And to learn something new, which requires discipline, is an emotional struggle of itself. So what I'm trying to do is get people to see that it's not that complicated. I mean, one of my tools is Tai Chi, okay? And it's really about breathing. So if we can begin remembering our breath before we get upset and doing it on a regular basis when that opportunity comes to practice, because that's all life is one big opportunity to practice, then we will have something that we have become an expert at or begin to master, and we'll move through that incident with grace and ease. So my thing is, we're not trying to get around it, because in order to grow, one must face their challenges. But we want to move through the challenge, bounce back quickly, and do it with grace and ease.
I don't know. I'm going to keep speaking for people that I'm around with the most, like teenagers. Advice to them. In the realm of what you deal with, maybe they can do something now that will prevent, it getting worse later for them to need, not saying they don't need to come to your class, but like, what can they do now to prevent anything like that from happening?
So I'm an advocate for the martial arts for a number of reasons, but mostly because it really does instill discipline in order to really move up. Now, in the United States, we do all this competitive things with colors and all this other stuff. Over in Europe, in Asia, they don't really do all of that. You graduate when your master notices your progress and says it's time for you to move to the next level. But whatever it is, just embarking upon that journey and learning to understand energy, because I'm really big on energy, and how it influences your mood and your body and how you breathe through it, that is the first step. So I think a lot of young people today are so bombarded with information over the computer technology that they are not moving. They're not moving enough. They're not in touch with energy other than that technology coming at them. So if they can step out of that and just give themselves a couple of hours a day or 1 hour a day, that they are turned off from technology and turned on to the energy around them, even if it's just sitting and being still.
So what I want you guys to do as we begin to close out, there are women who are listening. A lot of them facing some real challenges, some real struggles in their lives in finding their purpose and living the life that they know they were created for. And I want each of you just to share one thing, one tip, one suggestion, something that has helped you in your life, a book you read, whatever that can assist these women on their journeys. And we'll start on the end with Miss Beverly Green.
Okay, well, one tip that I would suggest for the women that are going through problems is to be willing to acknowledge it. Don't cover it up. Don't feel ashamed or afraid. Reach out. That's that's a form of humility to say, look, I need help. I'm having problems in this area. Something is wrong, and be willing to reach out.
Sounds good. Thank you, Beverly. Brandy?
Again, I'll piggyback on what she said. You have to first admit you have a problem in order to get better. So my motto is, do you want to remain bitter or do you want to get better? Turn your mess into your message, because everybody has a testimony and you will never have one if you don't go through a test.
Know when you've had enough of the misery and give yourself a chance to just say, okay, I'm ready to be happy. There's a lot of horrible stuff going on in the world. People have been through a lot of horrible stuff. And Black women especially, we have to give ourselves permission to be happy.
My motto is don't let life happen to you. You make life happen.
Awesome. I love that. Mick Alexander.
Okay, trying to keep it narrow. I would say the biggest thing is that remember there is a difference between fault and responsibility. So when things happen to us in life, it's not always our fault. Sometimes life just happens. So placing blame and focusing on the blame of why this happened is really a fruitless exercise. What really is important is taking responsibility. So this happened to you now. How are you going to handle it? What are you going to do? And are you willing to take responsibility for the way that you respond to it? There's a difference between reacting and responding. I say practice responding.
That's awesome. Well, I've enjoyed all of you so much. I'm so thankful you got to meet each other. I've said many times, and I've said at the beginning of the show, that there are divine appointments. You are here on this show on a particular day because there's somebody in this building you were supposed to meet. And I think you guys already know that you were supposed to know each other. So I thank you for being here.
I just want to say that this is really inspiring to see such wise Black women, you know? Like that gives that inspires me, and that gives hope. There's something about, you know, Black women. I don't know, I can't necessarily put the exact word on it, but there's a wisdom that is in you guys that isn't in everybody else.
Well, to my audience, I thank you guys for tuning in. I leave you with the words I always leave you with. Remember this: God loves you just the way you are. You are beautiful because you were created in love. You were fearfully and wonderfully made. You have the seeds of greatness within you. You were born to live a victorious life. You are brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous. You are worthy of the best things in life. God loves you just the way you are. You are beautiful because you were created in love. You were fearfully and wonderfully made. You have the seeds of greatness within you. You were born to live a victorious life. You are brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous. You are worthy of the best things in life.